Michelle Banger, Managing Editor of Quality, and we're here today at the Max event in Nashville. With me is Heather Wade, our 2026 Quality Professional of the Year, as well as the president of the Heather Wade Group. So Heather, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Michelle. I am thrilled to be here.
Yeah, congratulations. We're so happy you got the award. What a deserving winner this year.
Oh my goodness. It is such a thrill, such an honor. And I wasn't expecting to be able to give a little thank you speech. So I wanted to take a moment and say thank you, to Quality Magazine, to BNP Media for all of the support and collaboration over the years. It's a wonderful partnership, and I look forward to many more years.
Yeah, us too. That's great. Thank you. So you've been everywhere at the show. You're doing a lot of presentations, and you did a workshop yesterday on measurement. Could you tell us a little bit? It was about calibration and appropriate calibrations, choosing the vendors. What would you say is one thing that manufacturers don't seem to understand about calibration these days?
There are a few things that manufacturers don't keep in mind about calibrations is, one, what equipment needs to be calibrated. And then with the definition of calibration being a comparison against a standard that has a known value and assigned in a associated measurement uncertainty, a lot of times, not just manufacturers, but lab people may be thinking and believing that, oh, we can't calibrate it because we can't adjust it. And the good news is that because calibration by definition is just a comparison between what you're trying to calibrate, what you're trying to know what the measurement is, comparing it to a standard that has better accuracy and an estimated uncertainty and an assigned value, out of that comparison becomes a value you can assign to the previously unknown or what you wanted to prove, as well as that propagation of measurement uncertainty. So calibration must have the associated measurement uncertainty for it to be valid. That's one thing that the manufacturers and labs sometimes miss in that understanding. The other thing is knowing what they need for calibration. And a struggle for a lot of manufacturers, a lot of people in labs, as well as the calibration vendors, are when somebody just hands them a piece of equipment and says, calibrate this. Part of it is the person handing the equipment doesn't know what needs to be calibrated, what measurements are used on it. So that's a struggle point. And then for the lab that is there to calibrate it, they're like, okay, we're going to make our best guess about what you use for this. So the point of the session yesterday was to dispel some of the myths about calibration, what calibration means. What is this thing called metrological traceability? It's a big word, but metrological traceability is the proving of when you go to get a gallon of gas at the gas station that you are getting a gallon of gas. When you buy food at the supermarket and they put it on the scale that you're getting, if you're buying a pound of cheese, that you're getting a pound of cheese. That pound of cheese would be the same pound here as somewhere else. And this is using U.S. customary units. So we could use metric and say kilograms. So knowing how you use the equipment, what it's used for. So we spent some time dispelling some of those myths and then looking at how you can determine how accurate your equipment needs to be. So once you know how accurate the equipment needs to be, and what are the measurements that you make with that piece of equipment, then we looked at how to find a competent calibration vendor that could do that calibration and how to select and evaluate calibration vendors. And some of the nuances with accredited calibration scopes of accreditation.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I know you've given presentations around the world and the U.S. and China and other places, but are there any common questions you often receive during your presentations people don't want to know more about, I guess?
A lot of times people are looking for more training. Where can I learn this? How do I understand this? Where are the resources for, I want to learn measurement uncertainty, which, bless you, if you voluntarily want to learn measurement uncertainty, it's not a one and done. It's a lifetime endeavor to understand not just measurement uncertainty, but all things in measurement, you might hear a term and you have no context for that term. And then you start to learn how it fits in. And then then I understand a little bit more about the equipment, how it's used, and you can respond to it better. It's the same thing with international standards in their requirements, like ISO IEC 17025, which are the general requirements for the competence of testing and calibration labs, and the key word being competence. That there's a lot of requirements in there that may have some nuance about how they're interpreted. And as I work as an accreditation assessor, I'm hearing sometimes different interpretations from the labs that I'm assessing. And it's enlightening because, you know what how they're interpreting it, I can see that. I can see that that is a valid interpretation. And it's not that they are not in conformance with the requirement. They've interpreted it differently, and it is valid. So those are wonderful things to learn from the people that I assess.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you said in the workshop yesterday. I think Dilip mentioned the bliss of the single measurement. So that was such a great example you drew. Like, oh, you have 1 point, that's all you need. But then suddenly there's a whole cloud of them. And
yeah,
so it's a complicated topic for sure.
Yeah, Dilip Shah, one of my beloved mentors, he's here and he'll be speaking in the next podcast. He has a phrase called the single measurement bliss. You make one measurement, you know what it is. You make two, and the values are a little different. Which one is the right one? And it's not that which one is the right one. It's what are all the contributions to these measurements, and how does that feed into the measurement uncertainty? And I'm sure he can expound even more on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great topic. So when people are kind of getting into calibration and measurement, are there certain things that are kind of easier to understand? Is there a gateway explanation? You kind of gave it yesterday with the comparison calibration example, but...
Right. Some basics would be looking at fundamentals of calibration and that measurement traceability. So when you make a measurement on the shop floor or in your lab, and we'll use an example, you're using a caliper to measure a part. So you're making sure that that part is meeting some type of tolerance. What is the tolerance that you're trying to measure? And with that tolerance, is your caliper accurate enough to be able to measure that part so you have confidence in your measurement? And there's discussions of, well, you could just look at what the accuracy is of the caliper. That's some of the old ways of looking at things, when it's like, well, the best we can do is figure out the accuracy of these things. But the accuracy is what you want it to do. The uncertainty, the measurement uncertainty, is proving more of what it actually can do. It also is reflective of the lab performing the calibration, as there's different labs that some have better equipment, better people, better processes, and can give you a smaller uncertainty. Mm-hmm. But there's also the impact of what's being calibrated. The item that's being measured contributes to its own measurement uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. The workshops just showing the bullseye example too, I thought you mentioned was really great, just to say like, these could actually be intolerance and these aren't. You just never know with the window. So yeah.
With that, what you're talking about, Michelle, is I put up a graph. So you had your upper limit and you had your lower limit and you had your target measurement. And there were two measurement dots. One was close to the measurement target and one was a little bit higher than that. But they were both within the measurement limit. And I asked folks, which one would you feel is a stronger or a more confident pass or that's intolerance? And 100%, including myself, would say the one closest to the target. And when you keep in mind that every measurement has uncertainty, and you look at what the uncertainty is, that informs you more of really which measurement is a better measurement, where your risk is. Because if you have a measured value and its associated measurement uncertainty, expands beyond your limits, that's where your risk is, your measurement risk. So it's not just in calibration uncertainties, it's also in your process, your gauge R&R, your methods, that where are the risks? So, and when you're looking at these risks, they're known as global risks. You've got your consumer risk, your producer risk. Who's assuming the risk? The producer is assuming a risk by scrapping good stuff. It's like we called it a fail, but there's some overlap. We might be getting rid of some good stuff. On the opposite side is we're calling it a pass, but because we have overlap of the uncertainty outside the limit, there's a small probability that we are accepting bad product. And so there's a balance in trying to, well, how much does it cost to scrap it? What's the cost if we have to replace something in the marketplace? And it's when things get out of control and they keep sending out bad stuff, and then that's how they're known of, hey, this stuff just doesn't hold up like it used to, or they have to do a recall. And no one ever says, hey, great product recall.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as we said in our intro this morning, you have such a long career and, editing and writing a 700-page book on measurement and speaking around the world and just so many different places you've worked and things you've done. If you could go back and give advice to your, 21, 22-year-old self, is there anything you would say about what to do or how you'd go about it?
The advice I would give to my 21-year-old self, or let's say the one about to graduate college, and trying to find a job in the sciences. And in the meantime, I'm working at a fast food restaurant. I'm working in a bookstore. I'm renting a room. I'm driving a 15-year-old car, trying to think, how can I make it? I've got the science degree. I want to do science, and to continue to follow your passion of science, because every position I've held, every job I've done, every task I've taken on, I've learned something from that. And that's informed me, even to this day, of there was nothing that I did that was invaluable. Like, oh, this is just a waste of time. Everything I did had value, and I was able to learn from it and take it with me, even if it was what I was being offered for pay, and then how to learn you can negotiate your starting pay. Those things that I wish I had learned negotiate it in the beginning.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a hard lesson to learn later,
It is.
Yeah. And then speaking of advice, can you think of the best advice you've received in your career that you've taken?
I would say the best advice came from my parents that said, do what you love and the money will come. And I love what I do. It doesn't always feel like work because I get so excited and I enjoy it so much, and I enjoy seeing people understand and feel more confident in what they're doing. That it's mostly that they just need the information and the skills and the tools to be able to do their jobs better, but sometimes they don't know where to start or where it means. So stay enthusiastic, follow your passion, and yeah, you won't work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, my last question was just, what's your secret to having such great energy and enthusiasm? I feel like everyone wants that.
I have had to learn the secrets to having energy. I've had to learn as I get a little bit older, and is really taking good care of myself, practicing self-care, staying hydrated, eating well, getting good sleep, and learning to say no. That there's a lot of things that when you have this seemingly endless energy, people are like, oh, we want you to do this. We want you to do this. Can you do this? Can you do this? And a very powerful word to make sure you're taking care of yourself is to say no. And no is a complete sentence. And it started out where I would say, I have so many things on my plate. and I want to do a good job in whatever I do. And I fear that if I take this on, I'm not going to be able to deliver to you the best that I can. And I don't want to shortchange you with that lessening of the level of quality that I can give. So I am going to say no, because I know I won't do a good job. And that's a disservice to you for me to half do something.
Yeah, I love that no is a complete sentence. I feel like that's so powerful and helpful and good to remember. So, and it's a shame there's no shortcut or secret to all these things. So good. Okay. Well, I think those were my main questions for today, but is there anything else you want to mention or include here?
This has been a fantastic show. There's a lot of really knowledgeable people around, whether they're in their exhibit booth. There are knowledge leaders all around, and you may not think yourself as a knowledge leader, but everybody here has specific knowledge and experience that makes them valuable and unique in who they are and what you can offer to other people. So never feel like you're not good enough. You are good enough, and you have more to offer than maybe you realize and what other people realize, but just keep believing in yourself.
Oh, that's great. What a great ending. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all for coming to our event, and we'll see you next time.